Even then, it looks like Zimmerman's legal troubles are far from over. Albany attorney and our CBS 6 legal analyst Paul DerOhannesian joins us live from our Albany newsroom with more. Hiya, Paul. How are you?
Good to see you, Greg.
Good to see you. Let's just quickly recap the verdict. There were two very different sides of this story. Could the jury just not figure out who was telling the truth?
Well, I think it's a classical case of reasonable doubt. When you have self-defense and the defendant comes in and one of the few witnesses says he was on the ground being assaulted by the person whom he shot, and the defendant has physical injury to himself, and the lead detective on the case comes in and says, I found Mr. Zimmerman, the defendant, to be credible in his claim of self-defense, I think those are huge, huge problems to overcome for any prosecution.
Well, let's look ahead now. We're talking about the possibility of, we'll start with the federal charges, possibly civil rights charges. Is that likely to happen, do you think?
I don't know if it's likely to happen. There's certainly going to be a very strong investigation as to whether or not Zimmerman was motivated by ill will, any type of racial animus. They're going to dig deeply into his life. Now, there's already been some investigation on this. And while this administration has done more hate crime prosecutions than others, remember that just a few years ago in New York City, Sean Bell, there was a similar call for the Justice Department to make a criminal prosecution. In that case, after an acquittal, they chose not to. It's a difficult road, it's a high burden, but I think it's going to help keep this case in the public eye and also help continue George Zimmerman's problems.
And if I'm not mistaken, not as high a burden if there are simply civil charges filed, in essence, a lawsuit filed by the family.
That's right. Now think about this. If Zimmerman wants to go out and make money off of this, that money is going to be subject to attachment if there's a civil judgment against him. So it's going to limit his ability not just to come up with a book deal but make money, but also any statements he makes. Now, is he going to do further interviews? Everything he says now, whether it's to a TV reporter or any type of interview, is going to be used in that civil case. And I think that civil case is going to be, as you pointed out, a much lower standard of proof. And again, he's going to perhaps pay a price in that civil suit.
And just quickly, you expect a civil suit, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Paul DerOhannesian being live with us tonight. Paul, thank you very much. Always like to hear your insight.
My pleasure.